The alien soldier stood in a quiet corner of the makeshift camp, watching the humans move around. He felt a strange mix of emotions. Just a few hours ago, he had been captured, scared, and alone. Now he was free thanks to these brave humans. They had come from their world to save him and his fellow soldiers. He could hardly believe it. As the dust settled, the alien soldier looked around at the humans working together. Some were tending to the injured, while others were organizing supplies. The sounds of laughter and teamwork filled the air. It was a scene he had never imagined seeing. These humans, who had once seemed like a distant enemy, were now heroes in his eyes. He thought back to the moment of the rescue. The humans had arrived with loud machines that flew through the sky. They moved quickly, fighting off their own enemies to reach him. He had watched in awe as they worked together, risking their lives to save him. It was a bold move, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Just then, a young human approached him. She had bright eyes and a friendly smile. She was holding a small device. "Hello, I'm Sarah," she said, pointing to herself. "Can we talk?" The alien soldier felt a spark of hope. He nodded, eager to connect with her. Sarah pointed to the device and pressed a button. A voice came out, speaking in both human and alien languages. "Hello, I am a translator. I can help you speak." The alien soldier felt relieved. This was his chance to communicate. With the translator's help, they started to share their stories. The alien spoke slowly, using simple words. "My name is Zarn. I am from the planet Voria. We are afraid of the invaders." Sarah listened closely, her expression serious. She understood the fear in Zarn's voice. "Why are you afraid?" she asked. Zarn took a deep breath. "The invaders take our people. They destroy our homes. We need help." Sarah nodded, her heart heavy with empathy. She explained how the humans had their own battles against enemies who wanted to take their freedom. "We fight for our families and friends just like you," she said. Zarn felt a bond forming. These humans were not so different after all. As they talked, more humans gathered around. They were curious about Zarn and wanted to hear his story. One of the soldiers, a tall man with a strong build, stepped forward. "We want to help you, Zarn," he said. "Together we can fight back." Zarn's eyes widened. He never expected such kindness. He felt a surge of hope. "You will fight with us?" he asked, almost in disbelief. The humans exchanged glances, then nodded. "Yes, we are a team now," Sarah replied with a smile. The alien soldier felt a warmth spreading through him. He had always thought of humans as enemies, but now he saw them as allies. They were brave and willing to fight for each other. Zarn felt grateful for their friendship. As they continued to talk, Zarn learned more about the humans' tools and strategies. They showed him how to use their weapons and explained their plans. Zarn shared ideas from his own people. Together, they began to form a strategy to take back their worlds from the invaders. The air was filled with excitement and determination. Zarn realized this was not just a rescue, it was the beginning of a new alliance. He looked around at the humans who were now his friends. They had shown him kindness when he least expected it. As night fell, they gathered around a small fire. Stories were shared, laughter echoed, and for the first time in a long while, Zarn felt hope. He knew they still had a long way to go, but he also knew they would face it together. With a newfound sense of purpose, Zarn smiled. Together, they would stand against the invaders. The alien soldier and the humans were no longer just strangers. They were now united in a common cause. As the sun began to rise, casting warm light over the camp, Zarn felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had just begun to form a bond with the humans, but they still needed to communicate better. The small device Sarah had used was helpful, but Zarn wanted to speak directly to them. He wanted to share his thoughts and feelings in a more personal way. That morning, Zarn approached the humans as they gathered for breakfast. The smell of warm food filled the air, and he noticed how they laughed and joked with each other. He wanted to be a part of this. Gathering his courage, Zarn stepped closer, hoping to join in. "Good morning, Zarn," Sarah called out, her voice cheerful. Zarn smiled back, feeling encouraged. He picked up a piece of bread and held it out to her, mimicking their gestures of sharing food. "Food, good," he said, trying to keep his words simple. Sarah laughed lightly. "Yes, food is good. Thank you, Zarn." She took a piece of bread and shared it with him. The humans around them watched with curiosity, enjoying the interaction. Zarn felt happy and a little less nervous. This was a good start. After breakfast, Zarn sat with Sarah and a few other humans ready to practice communication. "We need to understand each other better," he said, using the translator device to help. The device buzzed softly and translated his words. "I want to learn your language." "Great idea," Sarah replied. "We can help you with that." She smiled and began to teach him simple words and phrases. "Let's start with greetings. When we say hello, you can say salutation." Zarn repeated, "Salutation." The word felt strange on his tongue, but he was determined to learn. They practiced saying it together, and Zarn enjoyed the feeling of trying something new. As the lesson continued, the humans began teaching him more words. They used actions to help him understand. "Water," Sarah said, holding a cup. Zarn nodded and said water. He watched as she poured it, and he mimicked her actions, pouring a little from his own cup. The other humans joined in, excited to help. One of the soldiers, a woman named Maria, pointed at different objects around them. "This is a tree," she said, pointing to a tall tree nearby. "Say tree." "Tree," Zarn repeated, looking up at the branches swaying gently in the breeze. They laughed and clapped when he got it right, making Zarn feel proud. As the day passed, Zarn learned more words: sky, friend, and help. Each new word opened a door for him to express himself. He could feel their friendship growing with each lesson. But as he practiced, he noticed how limited his vocabulary was. He wanted to share more about his life on Voria. When they took a break, Zarn gathered his thoughts. "I want to tell you about my people," he began, hesitating. He pointed to the sky and then to himself, trying to convey his meaning. The translator buzzed softly, but it was still challenging to get his point across. Sarah looked at him with understanding. "You want to share your story, right?" she asked gently. Zarn nodded, feeling relieved that she understood. He took a deep breath and tried again. "Voria, home, peaceful, before invaders." The humans listened closely, their expressions turning serious. They could see how much his home meant to him. Zarn continued, "We had families, friends, now fear, need help." Maria reached out, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We understand, Zarn." "You're not alone anymore," she said softly. "We'll fight together." Zarn felt a rush of gratitude. The humans had not only saved him, they were willing to fight for his people too. He knew that, despite the challenges of language, their hearts spoke the same language of courage and friendship. As the sun began to set, Zarn and the humans finished their lessons with smiles. They had built a bridge of understanding, one word at a time. Zarn knew that soon he would be able to share more about his world, and he felt excited about the journey ahead. With the stars twinkling above, Zarn felt hopeful. This was just the beginning of a strong alliance. Together, they would face the darkness that threatened both of their worlds. As days passed, Zarn felt more at home with the humans. Each morning began with laughter and learning. They practiced words, shared stories, and worked together to prepare for the challenges ahead. But deep down, Zarn knew that trust was the foundation of their new friendship, and he wanted to build it strong. One sunny morning, the camp was buzzing with energy. The humans had planned a training exercise to prepare for their mission against the invaders. Zarn watched as they set up obstacles, showing off their skills. He felt excitement mixed with nervousness. He wanted to participate but feared he might not be as skilled as them. Sarah noticed his hesitation. "Come on, Zarn. You can do this," she called, waving him over. "We're all learning together. It's about teamwork." Zarn took a deep breath and joined them. He wanted to show the humans he was brave. As they began the exercise, Zarn realized that he had skills from his time on Voria. He was fast and agile, and he could navigate through the obstacles with ease. "Great job, Zarn!" One of the soldiers cheered as he completed the course. Zarn felt a rush of pride. The humans were cheering for him, and it made him feel accepted. As they continued the training, Zarn learned about their tactics and strategies. He observed how they worked together, communicating with signals and shouts. He wanted to contribute more, so he decided to share what he knew about his own people. During a break, Zarn gathered the humans around. "I have ideas," he began, using the translator. "On Voria, we hide and move quickly. We can surprise invaders." The humans listened attentively. "Tell us more," Sarah urged, her eyes shining with interest. Zarn explained how his people had used the terrain to their advantage. He described how they could use shadows and natural cover to launch surprise attacks. Wow, that's smart, Maria said, nodding. We should try that in our next training exercise. The humans were excited by Zarn's suggestions, and he felt a sense of belonging. They were valuing his input, and that built a bridge of trust between them. As the days turned into weeks, they continued their training, combining human strategies with Zarn's Voria techniques. They laughed, learned, and grew stronger as a team. But Zarn knew that trust also needed to be tested, and he wanted to prove himself further. One evening, Zarn suggested they go on a scouting mission to gather information about the enemy. If we can find their weaknesses, we can plan our attack, he said, his voice steady. The humans looked at each other, considering the idea. It could be dangerous, Sarah warned, her brow furrowing. What if we get caught? Zarn nodded. We can go in groups. I know how to move quietly. We can trust each other. The humans exchanged glances again, and Zarn could see their hesitation. But then Maria spoke up. I think it's a good idea. We need to know what we're up against. With that, they prepared for the mission. Zarn felt a thrill of excitement mixed with nervousness. They gathered their gear and discussed their plan. Zarn suggested the best paths to take, drawing on his knowledge of the land. As they moved through the shadows, Zarn led the group with confidence. He felt the weight of their trust on his shoulders. The humans followed closely, their eyes sharp and focused. They crept quietly through the dense forest, keeping an eye out for any signs of the enemy. Suddenly, they heard voices ahead. Zarn held up a hand, signaling everyone to stop. He pointed to a clearing where enemy soldiers were gathered. Zarn could feel the tension in the air as they crouched low, listening. The humans held their breath, and Zarn could see fear in their eyes. He turned to them, whispering, "We can do this. Remember our training. Trust each other." The humans nodded, and Zarn felt a surge of determination. As they observed the enemy, Zarn realized they were more than just allies now. They were friends who relied on each other. This mission would test their bond, but Zarn was ready. They had come too far to turn back. With a shared glance of understanding, they prepared to gather the information they needed, united as a team. Zarn felt a strong sense of purpose, knowing that together they would face any challenge that lay ahead. Trust was building, and with it, the strength of their friendship. After their successful scouting mission, Zarn and the humans returned to the camp, filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had gathered valuable information about the enemy, and Zarn felt proud of how well they had worked together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple as they gathered around a large table to discuss their next steps. Sarah spread out a map of the area, marking the locations they had observed during their mission. Here she pointed to a spot near the river is where the enemy has set up a camp. There are at least 20 soldiers stationed here. If we want to attack, we need a solid plan. Zarn leaned in closer, studying the map. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was a critical moment for their new alliance. We should use the trees for cover, he suggested. We can move quietly and surprise them. Maria nodded in agreement. That's a good idea, Zarn. We can flank them from both sides. The other humans murmured in approval, and Zarn felt encouraged. He was becoming a valuable member of their team. As they continued to discuss their plan, Zarn noticed that Sarah seemed worried. What's on your mind? He asked gently. I'm just thinking about how we can minimize risks, Sarah replied. We can't afford to lose anyone. Zarn understood her concern. He knew the stakes were high. We need to be smart, he said. We should divide into smaller groups to create distractions. While some of us draw their attention, the others can move in for the attack. The humans looked thoughtful. That way we can confuse them, Maria added. It's a solid plan. With the outline of their plan forming, they took a break to eat. Zarn watched as they shared stories and laughter, feeling the warmth of friendship among them. He realized how important these moments were for building trust. They weren't just allies. They were friends ready to face any challenge together. After dinner, they gathered again, energized and focused. Zarn felt determined to show the humans that they could trust him completely. I can take the lead on the first distraction, he offered. I know the best routes to move quickly without being seen. That's brave, Zarn, Sarah said, her eyes shining with admiration. But we'll all be watching your back. We need to stay connected during the mission. Zarn nodded, grateful for her support. He felt the weight of responsibility, but he was ready to prove himself. They finalized their plan, deciding on signals to communicate during the attack. They would use whistles and hand signs to stay in touch. As night fell, they prepared for their mission. Zarn could feel the tension in the air, but it was mixed with excitement. They were united in their goal, and that gave him strength. Before they left, Sarah gathered everyone in a circle. "Listen, we've come so far together," she said, her voice steady. "Tonight we fight for each other and for Voria. Trust in one another. We can do this!" Zarn felt a surge of determination. The humans were not just fighting for their own safety, they were also fighting for him and his people. It meant everything to him. They all cheered, and Zarn's heart swelled with pride. As they moved out into the dark, Zarn took the lead. He guided the group through the trees, relying on his instincts. The sounds of the night surrounded them, but they moved quietly, like shadows. Zarn could feel the adrenaline rushing through him. He was ready to face the enemy. When they reached the enemy camp, Zarn stopped to assess the situation. He signaled for the others to crouch low and wait. They observed the guards, who seemed relaxed, unaware of the danger approaching. Zarn felt a thrill of excitement. They had the element of surprise. "Okay, it's time," Zarn whispered, his voice barely above a breath. He signaled to the distraction group to move in first. As they began to create noise on the opposite side, Zarn felt a wave of confidence wash over him. This was their moment. With his heart pounding, Zarn led his group toward the camp. He trusted the humans beside him, knowing they would back him up. Together they would face whatever came next. Zarn was ready to fight, ready to protect his new friends, and ready to save his home. This was just the beginning of their journey, and he felt more alive than ever. The night was dark and filled with tension as Zarn and the humans crouched behind the trees, waiting for the signal. The enemy camp lay just ahead, glowing softly in the moonlight. Zarn could see the guards chatting, their attention focused away from the shadows. He felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing they were ready to strike. "Remember the plan," Sarah whispered, her voice steady. "We stick together and move quickly." Zarn nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. This was their chance to prove themselves and to fight for Voria. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from the opposite side of the camp. It was the distraction team, making a ruckus to draw the guards' attention. Zarn felt a thrill of excitement as he watched the enemy soldiers turn and rush toward the sound. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Now!" Zarn signaled to the humans. They moved swiftly, using the trees for cover as they approached the camp. Zarn led the way, feeling the heartbeat of the mission in his chest. The humans followed closely, their faces determined and focused. As they reached the edge of the camp, Zarn peered out from behind a tree. He could see the enemy soldiers clustering together, trying to figure out what was happening. Zarn took a deep breath. They were in the perfect position to strike. "Let's go!" Zarn commanded, and they charged forward, hearts pounding. The humans leaped into action, weapons drawn. Zarn felt exhilarated, the fear of the unknown turning into courage. They were united, fighting for their new home and each other. Zarn was quick and agile, moving between the trees and rocks. He spotted an enemy soldier who had strayed from the group. With a swift motion, Zarn tackled him to the ground. The soldier gasped in surprise, but Zarn quickly covered his mouth, ensuring he wouldn't make a sound. "Stay quiet," Zarn whispered as he tied the soldier's hands. He could feel the thrill of victory already. Meanwhile, the humans fought bravely. They worked together, using the tactics they had practiced. Maria and Sarah were a team, covering each other as they moved through the camp. They fired their weapons with precision, and Zarn was amazed at their skill. "Zarn, over here!" Maria shouted, pointing to a group of enemy soldiers who had spotted them. Zarn turned to see the soldiers rushing toward him. He felt his heart race. "We need to fall back!" But Zarn didn't want to retreat. He remembered the training they had done together. "No, we can take them!" he yelled back. With a burst of energy, Zarn charged forward, using his agility to dodge their attacks. He felt the wind against his face as he moved, adrenaline fueling his every action. The humans followed Zarn's lead, rallying around him. They worked as a cohesive unit, dodging blows and returning fire. Zarn felt a deep bond with them. They were more than just allies. They were friends fighting for the same cause. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from the opposite side of the camp. It was the distraction team, making a ruckus to draw the guards' attention. Zarn felt a thrill of excitement as he watched the enemy soldiers turn and rush toward the sound. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Now!" Zarn signaled to the humans. They moved swiftly, using the trees for cover as they approached the camp. Zarn led the way, feeling the heartbeat of the mission in his chest. The humans followed closely, their faces determined and focused. As they reached the edge of the camp, Zarn peered out from behind a tree. He could see the enemy soldiers clustering together, trying to figure out what was happening. Zarn took a deep breath. They were in the perfect position to strike. "Let's go!" Zarn commanded, and they charged forward, hearts pounding. The humans leaped into action, weapons drawn. Zarn felt exhilarated, the fear of the unknown turning into courage. They were united, fighting for their new home and each other. Zarn was quick and agile, moving between the trees and rocks. He spotted an enemy soldier who had strayed from the group. With a swift motion, Zarn tackled him to the ground. The soldier gasped in surprise, but Zarn quickly covered his mouth, ensuring he wouldn't make a sound. "Stay quiet," Zarn whispered as he tied the soldier's hands. He could feel the thrill of victory already. Meanwhile, the humans fought bravely. They worked together, using the tactics they had practiced. Maria and Sarah were a team, covering each other as they moved through the camp. They fired their weapons with precision, and Zarn was amazed at their skill. "Zarn, over here!" Maria shouted, pointing to a group of enemy soldiers who had spotted them. Zarn turned to see the soldiers rushing toward him. He felt his heart race. "We need to fall back!" But Zarn didn't want to retreat. He remembered the training they had done together. "No, we can take them!" he yelled back. With a burst of energy, Zarn charged forward, using his agility to dodge their attacks. He felt the wind against his face as he moved, adrenaline fueling his every action. The humans followed Zarn's lead, rallying around him. They worked as a cohesive unit, dodging blows and returning fire. Zarn felt a deep bond with them. They were more than just allies. They were friends fighting for the same cause. Suddenly, Zarn saw an enemy commander shouting orders from the back of the camp. "We need to take him down," he called to the humans. "If we can get rid of their leader, we can win this fight." The humans nodded in agreement, determination shining in their eyes. They knew this was their chance. Together, they moved toward the commander, staying low to avoid enemy fire. Zarn could feel the weight of their mission on his shoulders, but he was ready. As they approached the commander, Zarn signaled for silence. They needed to move quickly and carefully. With a deep breath, he launched himself at the commander, tackling him to the ground. The humans followed suit, surrounding the commander and ensuring he couldn't escape. "Don't move!" Zarn shouted, holding the commander down. The humans quickly bound the commander's hands, and Zarn felt a rush of triumph. They had taken down the leader! The remaining enemy soldiers hesitated, confusion spreading among them. The tide of the battle had turned. Zarn stood tall, looking around at his friends. "We can do this! Let's finish what we started!" With renewed energy, the humans pushed forward, their confidence soaring. The enemy soldiers, seeing their commander captured, began to retreat. Zarn and the humans chased them away, their spirits high. As the last of the enemy soldiers fled, Zarn let out a cheer of victory. They had done it! They had fought bravely and defended their home. Zarn felt a surge of pride as he looked at the humans around him. They had built trust, friendship, and now they had achieved a great victory together. As they stood in the aftermath of the battle, Zarn knew this was just the beginning of their journey. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their cause. The morning sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the camp where Zarn and the humans gathered. After their victory, they felt stronger and more united. Today was a new day, and they had a new mission ahead of them. Zarn could see the determination in the faces of his friends, and it filled him with hope. As they prepared to leave, Sarah stood in front of the group, holding a small device that displayed the next target on the map. "We have intel that another enemy camp is nearby," she explained, her voice steady. "They are planning an attack on our home. We need to stop them before it's too late." Zarn felt a mix of excitement and fear. This mission was important, and he knew they had to succeed. "What's the plan?" he asked, eager to contribute. "We'll split into two groups," Sarah continued. "One group will create a distraction, while the other sneaks in to gather information and sabotage their supplies. Zarn, we want you to lead the distraction team. You know how to move quickly and quietly." Zarn nodded, feeling proud that they trusted him with such an important task. "I won't let you down," he promised, his heart racing with excitement. Maria stepped forward, her expression serious. "And I'll be with you, Zarn. We can work together to keep their attention on us." "Good idea," Sarah replied. While you two draw their attention, the rest of us will sneak in and gather the intel we need. Zarn felt a surge of confidence with Maria by his side. They had fought together before, and he trusted her completely. "Let's get ready then," he said, feeling the excitement build within him. The team gathered their supplies and weapons, checking to ensure everything was in order. Zarn felt the weight of his weapon in his hands, a reminder of the responsibility he carried. He was ready for action. Before they set off, Sarah gathered everyone in a circle. "We've worked hard to build trust among us," she said, her eyes scanning each face. "Today, we fight for our homes and each other. We need to stick together and communicate. Let's make this mission a success." Zarn felt a sense of unity as they all cheered together. They were more than just a team. They were a family, ready to face whatever came their way. As they moved through the forest, Zarn took the lead, using his knowledge of the terrain. He guided the group along hidden paths, careful to avoid any enemy patrols. The air was filled with the sounds of nature, but Zarn's focus was on the mission ahead. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him. After a while, they reached a clearing where they could see the enemy camp in the distance. Zarn crouched low, studying the area. He could see soldiers walking around, unaware of the approaching threat. "This is it," he whispered to Maria, who was beside him. "Let's get their attention." Maria nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination. "On my count, we create a distraction," she said, her voice steady. 1, 2, 3. Together, they leapt from their hiding spot, shouting and waving their arms to draw the enemy's attention. "Hey, over here!" Zarn called out, his voice echoing in the quiet forest. The enemy soldiers turned, confused by the sudden commotion. Zarn and Maria ran in a zigzag pattern, making themselves hard targets to hit. "This way!" Zarn shouted, leading the soldiers away from their camp. Meanwhile, Sarah and the other group took advantage of the distraction. They moved quickly and quietly toward the enemy camp, knowing this was their chance to gather the information they needed. As Zarn and Maria continued to run, they could hear the soldiers shouting behind them. "Get them!" one of the soldiers yelled, frustration rising in his voice. Zarn felt a thrill of excitement. Their plan was working. Zarn glanced back at the camp and saw the soldiers scattering, chasing after them. "Keep moving," he urged Maria, feeling the adrenaline pump through his veins. They had to stay one step ahead of their pursuers. As they reached the edge of the forest, Zarn spotted a large rock formation ahead. "We can hide there," he shouted, pointing to the shelter. They dashed toward it, hoping to evade the enemy soldiers. Once they reached the rocks, they crouched low, breathing heavily. Zarn peered around the corner, watching as the soldiers searched for them. "They'll be back," he said, trying to catch his breath. "We have to be ready." Maria nodded, her expression focused. "We can wait here until they calm down. Then we'll make our next move." As Zarn watched the enemy soldiers, he knew they had to be smart. This mission was far from over, but he felt confident in their ability to work together. They had come too far to turn back now. They were ready for action, and nothing would stop them from completing their mission.